Welcome to Small Biz Life, episode 17. Happy New Year.
Does this sound familiar?
Oh my God, I have so much to do today.
Don't forget to breathe.
But I have almost 400 emails in my inbox and 30 phone calls to make.
Have you looked into getting a virtual assistant yet?
Oh, and I need to schedule all my social media posts.
Did you drink anything today?
I had coffee.
Did you eat today?
Did I mention coffee's a bean?
This is Small Biz Life. Hello, this is Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I'm Kristin Ingram.
And today we come to you from the New Year's Studios.
It is a new year, 2016. You know, it's so funny because we were out New Year's Eve and it's like everybody's like so excited and it's like New Year. And how long does it take for that to wear off? Like a couple days?
No, usually for me the next morning, especially if I stay up too late.
Okay. Well, we're going to try to keep some of that excitement going because in this episode, we're going to be talking about new beginnings. Huzzah.
Huzzah.
But we're going to start this episode like we start every episode with what's in the news.
Yes, and I found an interesting article today on Tech Republic, a very good newsletters they have, and they have 5 free WordPress backup solutions. And this, I think, fits in very nicely with a New Year theme. If you are like me, and some of the groups I've been in online, there have been instances of people's shared hosting companies getting hacked. And even if you don't have a shared hosting company, it is a risk that can happen. You can have the greatest website and login security. If the actual host, the server it is on, gets hacked, there is zero that your website can do to stop it from being infiltrated with malware or possibly destroyed.
Yeah, we were actually talking about this in the airport yesterday because this is one of my big concerns is making sure that all of our sites are backed up. And so tell us about what you found.
Okay.
This is exciting.
This is a good one for people on a budget. Some of these also have pro versions, but I won't be going into those. The first one is right in WordPress itself. There is a backup utility. And this is actually a very handy device. Now, it is only good for backing up content. So what it'll back up is your posts, your pages, your comments, your custom fields, your categories, and tags. Notice I did not say plugins. I did not say theme. I did not say media library. Those are not backed up by this. Now, one of the things that you can do, if you're going to use this kind of backup solution, when you have your site in a good place, take the WordPress folder itself down and actually just store that. That way you have a theme, you have posts, or this is really probably before you have posts, but if you're setting up vanilla, as soon as you get it set up, before you put up any posts, before you have any comments, just take a snapshot of that, zip it up on your computer. A lot of hosts like HostGator have a utility to allow you to do this. And that way you can have what you know is a clean installation of WordPress-ness with all of the plugins that you're planning to use and your theme. Now, if you make changes to plugins, you have to make sure to put it in this folder as well too. Now, to restore a setup like this, you would put a vanilla WordPress installation in, basically re-import your theme, your plugins, which is definitely easier if you have a backup of it, and then go to your old site, grab all of your media, sort of copy that over to your new site. You can, will be a solution through your manager as well too to allow you to get into the folders. Hopefully it's SFTP, not FTP.
There's got to be an easier way.
Yes. So,
because that sounds really complicated. And as you're going through that, I'm like, I don't want to do all that.
It's really not as long as you think. I mean, if you have a good little checklist for yourself set up, I moved meals outside the box. This is how I did it. But now there is another one called WordPress Free Backup. And this is a pretty nice one. It will create a backup of your WordPress installation. And what it will do is you can actually schedule it to back up to something like a Dropbox or a site like Dropbox, or you can have an FTP to like your own computer somewhere, and it will just actually back up your WordPress site and it'll push it down somewhere. It looks like it's a fairly flexible backup with what you can do. The good thing with that is flexibility allows you to be a little bit more advanced with how you want to do things. The bad thing is maybe it takes a little more knowledge to set up. But it doesn't look very difficult to me.
Says the IT guy. But that's cool because you can schedule backups. And I think that's one of the things that if it's a process that you have to do on your own, you're going to forget to do it.
Yes, it's something you want to automate. Whenever a new post is added, back up your site, or maybe come up with a weekly schedule would probably be better, because you don't want to waste your processor on backups all the time if you put up a lot of posts. But if you put up like a weekly post. And now there's another one, Updraft Plus, and this one is supposed to be good because it's supposed to be very easy to install, activate, and back up. And you can actually, once again, schedule in this one as well too. Doesn't look to have quite as many configuration options. But once again, if you're a little bit more knowledgeable, you can actually do stuff like back up certain database tables or not other ones. And, because maybe you want to just do a partial backup, because one of the risks that you have in a backup, and you should keep this in mind when you create backups, is never have just one. Because let's say you find out a week or two after you've been backing up that your hosting company contacts you and says there's been your site's been hacked and so now your WordPress installation isn't good. If you only have one backup, it might have backed up the bad stuff with it.
Well, that's kind of one of the things we do with QuickBooks, is that there's actually a setting that you can keep the last 3 backups or the last 5 backups. You can decide. But then that way, like if you have a corruption in your file, you've got a couple.
You get their premium edition. They actually have a 1 gigabyte vault. And since the stuff, it will be compressed, it won't be as large as a normal installation. And you could have a couple different backups as part of the premium if you decide to go that way.
That's pretty nice.
Now, there's another one here that sounds pretty cool, and especially if you're thinking about migrating. If you've ever migrated a WordPress site from a host to a host, or let's say you've rebranded and now you have, even worse, a new URL, it can cause problems.
We've never done that.
We've never done that. And you can get plugins to fix certain problems, like say your images are all linked back to your old URL because your WordPress natively hard codes the path to it instead of doing it in an internal link. So it will break your links if you do that. Well, there's another backup solution called Duplicator. And it's another pretty powerful one that will actually allow you to migrate, copy, or clone a WordPress site. And essentially, it looks, once again, fairly easy to set up. It has little wizards to help you do it. And so if you're changing your URL, something like this might be a little bit better solution. And my thing is, these are all free too. So download them. And if it looks really confusing and you don't want to try WordPress, download them all and find out which one works for you. It's something good to play around with, but don't wait to be the next person in one of these business groups that I'm in that come out to say that their site was hacked and they had to pay X number of dollars to their hosting company to help get their site cleaned up. New
year, this is definitely on my to-do list for 2016, and it should be on your to-do list as well. My article for this week, which is very appropriate for what we're going to talk about today, I found this in USA Today, and this is from January 1st. And it's 16 small business resolutions for 2016. I like this because it gives you some things to really think about, as you're going through and you're doing your planning for 2016. And I'm going to kind of go through a couple of them, and we'll put the full article in the show notes, as well as the article that Jeff talked about. But the first one that they talk about is make a decision to grow. Growth doesn't just happen, right? It's got to be something that is in your vision that you're putting resources into to make it happen. If you're looking to grow your business, that's got to be one of your key goals, right? And if you haven't listened to episodes 14, 15, and 16 that we did about goal setting, go back and listen to those episodes. But certainly if growth is on your mind, then it's got to be one of your goals for the year. Their second one they talk about is figure out what makes you money, right? And we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but make sure that you know what services make money, what services maybe bring in a lot of revenue, but they're very time consuming. You don't want to, you don't want to focus on those products. You want to focus on the ones that are easy to automate, that are scalable, right? And will help you grow your business.
And another opportunity with that too is you can sit there and go, if I have one that brings in a lot of revenue, is there some automation I can put into place to help actually turn it into one of those other kind that make you more revenue?
Right, exactly. I love number 5 on their list. Number 5 is find a niche.
A niche.
A niche.
A niche.
But find your niche. You cannot be all things to all people. What?
No, I'm just looking at you. I don't know why you look paranoid there.
I think a lot of times we try to create a business that's got the widest scope possible for the highest number of, customers. Jeff's podcast is for fantasy world builders.
Billions of those.
But it's funny though, because you've created this little niche, right? I'll say it your way. You've created this little niche and your podcast has done really well in that little niche. When you figure out who your ideal customer is and you create content just for that customer, you're going to see better engagement. You're going to see better return on your investment for your time and your money, rather than, trying to cast a wide net.
Yes.
So I really like that one. Number 6 on their list, bother people and get rejected. I think a lot of times we play it safe, right? We're afraid to talk about our business. We're afraid to, make the sales pitch to people. This is something that I'm pretty terrible about, especially, with my online projects. It's okay to get rejected. It's going to happen. But if you don't put yourself in a position where people might say no to you, you're also not putting yourself in a position where people might say yes to you.
Yeah. And I think one of the dangers of the way a lot of the modern internet entrepreneur communities work are they try and actually target people to say, hey, do this, be this, get into these groups that will help motivate and create accountability. And then as a safety mechanism, we hover and hide in these groups because we know that we'll get good feedback, and they're not necessarily our avatar we're targeting in this group. But people will be nicer to us. They'll be helpful. They'll cheer us on. But then you don't ultimately get in the contact with your avatar, which is a huge mistake.
Right. Let's see. Number 8 on their list is turn off social media. Social media is a huge time suck. And what they're recommending is use scheduling tools, and that's what we do. We use Buffer and we use Edgar for our scheduling tools, and establish a time limit for how much time you're going to spend on social media, because that allows you to stay focused. Uninstall Facebook from your phone. But if you're in groups, especially like business groups, just keep the group app on your phone, and you can do that. I know you don't like the group app.
I find it very easy, and that's one that actually kind of annoys me. I mean, I guess if you have a control issue with it, but several months ago, I think when we started doing the class with Jamie, I really stopped spending a lot of time in social media. And probably too much, because I probably should spend a little bit more time than I do there. But the thing I find is I just don't look at my news feed, unless I'm bored in my car and I have nothing else to do and I have my phone. But I very rarely look at my news feed. I'll go through my notifications to see if there's something responding to one of my posts, or if there's something in one of these groups that I pay attention to, and if there is actually a comment directed towards me from an actual family member or something like that. I'll click through those and comment on those, but you can show some self-control in these scenarios too.
You can, but there's also, ways to help make it easier for you to exhibit self-control.
But if you don't have if you're struggling with it, I would agree with that, but I don't think that's a necessary step for everyone.
No, I don't think so. But especially for me, I think it certainly made it, even if you turn off the notifications from Facebook,
Yes, I did that. That helps a lot.
Yeah. That helps a lot. So a couple other things they talk about, moving to the cloud. This is something that we did last year. I love my Google Drive. I really do. I love my Google Drive.
I love Google Drive.
For me, because the fact that, I do teach. So I'm at the university. I've got my desktop computer. I've got my laptop computer. I have a Chromebook that I carry around with me sometimes. I've got my cell phone. So being able to have all my files in one cloud drive just makes my life so much easier.
If you're any kind of business at this point that, is either mobile or you're an internet entrepreneur, you should really do this, if nothing else, to help back up your files, because now all your critical files are actually stored somewhere that isn't your computer. So if your house blows up and you survive and your computer did not, those files are all still there exactly the way. You just need to access another computer to get to them.
Right. This one I really like. Attend or exhibit at a trade show. And I would add or a conference. Get out there in front of your avatar, apply to speak at conferences, attend conferences, because this is a really good way for you to become a better speaker, to learn new things in a short amount of time. I know the couple conferences that I went to in 2015, I learned a lot in a very short amount of time. It's a great way to network.
Yeah.
So get out there. Even like, I know we live in the Hartford, Connecticut area. There's a small business trade show that they do every year. So I try to make it down to that one. You don't have to go far necessarily, but, connect up, and if you can't, even connect up with like a local chamber of commerce, just to meet some people in your area. And it'll really help you, craft your elevator speech, get involved with your local community. And that's a great way to grow your business.
It's a great way to be told no too when you're trying to explain your business to someone who has no idea what it is. The more they look at you like they have no idea what you're talking about, the more that's a successful rejection to where hey, my elevator speech sucks.
Yep. So, those are great opportunities to get out there, hear the word no, maybe get some yeses. Okay, I really like number 15 on their list, vote. This is a super important election year. It is a presidential election year. Every House seat and 34 Senate seats are up for election. Nothing affects small business as much as the overall health of the economy. When people freak out about the economy, they close their wallets.
Yes.
Which adversely affects small businesses. Figure out what issues are important for you, what issues are important for your business, figure out which candidates align with what is most important for your business, and go vote. Vote in the primaries, vote in the general election, vote. Okay. In most states, it is not too late to register for the primaries, because you have the ability to help vote for the candidate that is going to come out of each party. Figure out which party most aligns with what you believe and go register for their primary.
Yes.
Go vote in the primaries. People always complain that we have all these crappy candidates that run for president, but they don't vote in primaries. I highly recommend vote and vote wisely.
Really don't forget your local level either. That will probably have as much impact on your wallet as anything the feds do, is your local level. And one of my theories are, I try and vote, and I do get into circumstances where there are candidates that I cannot stand on either side, and I have no good choices. I vote anyway. I write in none of the above. I really do. I literally write in none of the above just to make the point that I went out and neither one of you could provide a candidate that I thought was worthy of my vote. Yeah. And I'm very picky. So,
and that's true. Local elections, typically most people, they pay a lot in local property taxes, especially if you're a business owner. You're going to pay personal property taxes. You're going to pay taxes on your house, taxes on your cars. It's the people at the state and local level that set those taxes.
Yes.
So make sure that you learn about those candidates, and especially in state and local elections. Over the past, I would say probably like 3 or 4 election cycles, we've gotten to meet most of the people that were running for office. They're really accessible. They're out campaigning. go meet them, ask them the tough questions, and
Especially
figure
your town
out.
council, because once they get elected, they might be harder to access.
Yes. Yep. So, and then the last one, we've talked about this before, shop local. Okay. Because if we don't support each other, it's kind of hard for us to go out there and tell other people to do so.
Or just understand that the ultimate vote you have is your shopping dollars. So where and when and how you choose, that's what sets prices. That determines everything.
Right. So if you want to check out either one of those articles, go to smallbizlife.com and click on the show notes for episode 17.
Excellent.
Okay. It is a new year. It is time for new beginnings.
Excellent.
Like I said, at the top of the show, people get so excited. It's a new year. We're like, yay! And then January 4th is going to come around and we're all going to go, okay, so now it's Monday again. And it just feels like any other Monday. So, a couple things that we want you to think about as you're starting to look at this new year, you're opening probably your brand new planner, right? And you're trying to figure out, okay, it's Monday. Now where do I go from here? So hopefully you listened to episodes 14, 15, and 16 on goal setting, right? And you've gone through that process. A couple other things that I want you to think about. Think about what worked for you in 2015.
Yes.
A lot of times, it was funny because I know, sitting there on New Year's Eve, we're thinking about like, all the things that, were not so great about 2015, and you're hoping that 2016 is going to be better. But, take some time to think about what actually did work in 2015. You launched your podcast in 2015 at the beginning of 2015.
Slightly exceeded my expected downloads.
Yes, just slightly. No, your podcast did great.
Yeah, no, it hit what I hope to get annually in 3 months, I believe. Yeah.
So that was awesome. You did your first 100 episodes in 2015, which was very cool. And you tweaked your podcast along the way. So you got a co-host, right? And when we launched this podcast, we decided to do it together.
Yeah.
Right? Because the banter's more fun.
The banter is a lot more fun. And, it also helps too, because not every episode is going to be exactly something you want to listen to if it's just the content. And so I think it makes it more enjoyable for people to get a little banter mixed in there too.
Right. Yeah. So, other things that worked for us in 2015, we launched this podcast in September, and you guys have been awesome. You're sharing it all over the place, and
great audience.
We're so pleased. One of my other projects, that website, I launched it the middle of 2014. By the end of this year, I was getting like 35,000 unique visitors a month, which was more than it did in all of 2014, which was kind of cool. My YouTube channel, a whole bunch of my videos are the suggested video for that topic. So that's pretty cool. So it's been, I transitioned my firm in 2015, or I started to transition, and that's been awesome. My revenue was up 25% last year.
Excellent.
So, and a lot of, me being able to figure out what worked, just to think back on what did we launch this year? What did we do this year? And how did that work? Journaling helps with that. Even if you just keep like a daily calendar and you're kind of putting things in of what you did that day, you can flip back, right? And kind of see what's working and what's not. That for me, when I look at the numbers, I use QuickBooks Online, being able to look back at this year's numbers versus last year's numbers and where my revenue is coming from has been really helpful.
Yeah. Well, not only that too, it's like, this is a good time, and people get overworked up with analytics when they're not at that level. If you're at a level where you start producing a lot of money, you have to be pretty focused on your analytics. You have to start doing your A/B splitting and this kind of stuff to make sure you're maximizing your revenue. But especially if you're starting off and you're newer like we are, you can get caught up in going, okay, yesterday we broke 1,000 unique views, or 1,000 downloads, or whatever the number is, and depending on where your platform is, the metric might vary that you're watching a lot. And it's usually not the meaningful metric. Like I said, we could have 50,000 downloads a day, which would maybe make it easier to get sponsors. But in reality, if those don't turn into people who either contact my wife or interact with, one of our affiliates, that's great. And I want 50,000 downloads a day, no matter what. But I want an engaged audience more.
Right.
I'd rather have a smaller engaged audience that grows over time, much like Kristin's, original YouTube channel. Very little traffic, and it just every year it just slowly builds and builds. And sometimes we get little spikes in the builds, which are always exciting. And it seems the more volume it gets, the bigger it builds.
Mm-hmm. So that's the thing. And, go back to what we said, when we were talking about the article, is find out what your niche is, and focus on your niche.
Yeah.
Because, I love our, I love our community. It's not, we're not the biggest podcast out there.
We're not?
No, we're not. But, we have an amazing community that's really engaged.
And wonderful technical staff.
And kitties for technical staff. So when, rather than focus on your failures for 2015, focus on your areas of improvement. Mm-hmm. So what do you wish you could do better in 2016?
Mm-hmm. And this is one of those things where if you're not an excessively negative person, looking at your failures is actually a good idea. But you have to look at it not for, oh gosh, this was bungled, I'm an idiot.
That's not what you want to do.
This is what you not want to do. What you want to do is sit there and go, okay, why did this fail? And if you don't know why it failed, that's actually probably a bigger concern than having a failure. And because that's what will lead you to what you need to improve on potentially, or go, well, I was overreaching doing that. Maybe I shouldn't have been doing that in the first place.
So Toyota has the management system that they call the 5 whys. Mm-hmm. And if if something fails at Toyota, they will ask why until they come up with the real reason for the failure.
Yes. Much like the how for setting goals.
Right, exactly. So it's kind of like the how and why for setting goals. But, if you keep asking yourself why, you can get down to the real reason, why something failed. So that's kind of a good, as you're looking for areas of improvement, using something like that could help you get down to the root reason. Don't dwell on the negative. So make sure that you're balancing out your areas of improvement with the things that you did really well. And I've been seeing, I see a lot of this on Facebook where people are like, oh, it was, 2015 was such a failure. If you learned things in 2015, if you put yourself out there and you failed, then you succeeded. Because most people are too afraid to even put themselves out there. Maybe you had a product that didn't launch as well as you wanted it to. I had that happen in 2015. And we sat back and we said, okay, why did this happen? Why didn't it translate? Why didn't the sales get there? And we learned a lot from that. And so I don't consider that a failure. No. It was a learning opportunity.
And actually, we got some great content, which we're probably going to use in different ways now.
Exactly. So, it might not have happened the way you wanted it to, but, there's still something there that you can learn from that. And
I think that's a great example, too, because really, we made the course in a way we like to receive content. We didn't think about our avatar.
Right.
When we were setting it up, and we got burned because of it.
But we learned a lot from it.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. So I'm still happy with that.
Oh, yeah.
So make sure that you have a plan. We said in episode 16 that only 20% of small businesses make goals and 85% of small businesses fail within the first 5 years. Having a plan, having goals, having a vision will help you go farther in 2016.
And one of the excuses you hear is plans are too rigid. Well, one, it's not a very good plan if it's rigid. You have to kind of evaluate how things are going, at least mentally, weekly, maybe even daily, depends on how active your area is. A plan gives you a path forward to which you can measure your movement. So don't think that because you've come up with this big, beautiful plan, that this is your plan for the year and nothing will change along the way. It probably should or might. So don't let that be your fear excuse to not plan. Plan, but understand that things are going to change, perhaps opportunities you don't even foresee are sitting right next month. So be ready to act on those, but understand that if you have a plan, well, what's going to happen to the other stuff? Do I push it off? Do I not do it? It allows you to settle it and put it either away or go, this is great, but maybe later.
Most of the people I've worked with who did not want to set goals, when you really start getting into it with them, it's fear.
Yeah.
It's fear that they're not going to achieve their goals. It's fear of putting themselves out there. Mm-hmm. It's fear of putting it down on paper to go, oh crap, I have to do this. Mm-hmm. If you haven't read Start by John Acuff, put that on your reading list for 2016. Because he talks a lot about fear and beating back the fear. Mm-hmm. Probably one of the best books that I read at the end of 2013. Mm-hmm. And really helped us kind of get past that fear. And don't get me wrong, like there's still times I go, oh my God, I can't believe I think I'm going to do this, but we push through it. Right. And we use some of those techniques that John talked about to get past that.
Especially when you put yourself out there, you have the ability to overcome the fear in your brain. And that's great. Realize that it might not be a huge strength, but it is a strength. Latch onto that because, it's like when you have a product launch failure, or you get to the point where you have to change your goals because you're not going to achieve it, or because you've crushed it, either way, understand that, fear is that thing that's going to poke up and tell you, no. Or if you don't make your goal, you're a failure. Say I had a goal for this year. I wanted 10,000 Twitter followers. And after 3 months, I stopped trying because the thing was I was not getting the followers I wanted. And I think it was Tim Graw who put it, is like, you have the amount of Twitter followers that you have. Better to have people who engage with you on Twitter and have 200 than to have 20,000 who never look or respond or favorite or interact with you in any way.
Right.
You can pay for those. Those are easy to get.
Right. Put some goals down on paper, start to develop a plan for 2016. And if the plan isn't going the way you want it to go, start over.
Or sit there and go, what could I do to get me to that plan? So let's say you have an important one, like you're trying to build your revenue. Maybe, a free Facebook page is not enough to get you there. Mm-hmm. Maybe the great content is not enough to get you there. So maybe you have to look for other avenues.
Right. Spend some time at the beginning of this year and really throughout the year and be thankful. I think many times we get so caught up in what we're doing and we get so stressed out, we stop thinking about what is working well, what we should be thankful for, and just, get away from focusing on the negative all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think that is something that can really help recenter you. Mm-hmm. It's funny because I've become a big fan of coloring. I love coloring. Shout out to Scott Kuzo and his coloring books. It's kind of amazing when you sit down with some colored pencils and, a coloring book like Scott Kuzo's, and you just kind of focus in on that and you stop thinking about, the 800 things you have to do today and, the 20 things that went wrong yesterday. And it kind of helps you get centered, get focused, and then go back to doing what you need to get done. So spend some time, spend some self-care time, spend some time doing something that you really love doing, whether it's, knitting or being outside or reading a book. And they don't all have to be business books. Read some books for,
Please. Especially if you sit there and go, these other people are always thinking outside the box. Why can't I not do that? It's because you keep reading great content probably from the same people or the people who they recommend to you. And where there's definitely value in that, do not get me wrong. The way you learn to think outside the box, is you read things that are outside of your main area, but that interest you for education, and fiction. Because fiction is all about people interaction, and you can learn lessons through stories better than you can through lectures.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because you read all these things about, the most successful business people read 30 books a year. I think last year, I read 5 books, business books. I think I probably read another 6 or 7 novels. And it's funny because sometimes you read novels and you get really good business ideas out of reading novels.
Or you read books about breaking the Mayan code and come up with great business lessons as well, too.
That is true. And that's the thing. It's like read books on history, read books on civilizations, read fantasy novels, read mysteries and love stories, and don't just read business books. Because I agree with you on that I think a lot of the reason that people can't think outside the box is because they're spending so much time reading other people's thoughts. Yeah. Right?
And that's the same reason that's why politics has become so divisive. They're reading content that feeds their beliefs, and it doesn't really give them a strong foundation. If you're never questioning what you believe, how can you grow? And you might not change your opinion, but the thing is, when you hear counter arguments and really rational through them, that will make you stronger too. Be offended once in a while. It's wonderful. I'm excited every day I'm offended.
Yes.
Which is kind of difficult. So,
but yeah, expand your horizons. And I guess this leads into my last point is stop searching for all the answers. Stop reading all the business books. Stop reading all the business articles. At some point, you go into information overload. You get stuck because you've ingested so much information, and now you have so many ideas and so many things that you want to do and things you want to implement that it just gets crazy.
And you get focused on this huge picture idea that, I need at least 100,000, downloads a month to really get sponsors. I need 100,000 page views a day, or whatever those metrics are for your industry, to be able to really make money so I can get away from my job. And you fail to understand that, and I have to see if I can find this number somewhere, but, they said that, the average overnight success is 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the small victories that take you to those huge things. It's like, when I release my novel, just releasing it will be huge. But there are lots of little things, and more than you realize when you do it the first time, with editing and with drafts and, with feedback from people, book covers. And
it's a long process.
There's a lot of stuff to do. You don't need to be perfect at it to start launching, because this is the thing I do here. I agree with a lot of the big content people is, they're like, make it look professional and go. Because you will improve over time. You'll find where you're weak, where you're strong. Michael Hyatt could retire tomorrow, hire you to take over his thing, and you could completely fail it. Because you're not Michael Hyatt. What worked for him might or might not work to the same degree for you.
2016, spend more time doing.
Action.
Right? Action. We talked about in the goal planning episodes having action items every week. Spend time working on your business. Spend less time trying to learn everything that's going to make you the best business owner ever. And that may mean that you shut off this podcast. And that's okay. If that's what you need to do, then go ahead and do that. Yeah. Right? And now our listenership drops. Whoop.
I know.
Because I just told everybody to stop listening. But you know what? If that's what you need to do, then do it.
Or plan your time differently. Listen to the podcast when you're in the car.
Right.
You don't have to do it at your desk, at your computer.
I typically listen to podcasts in the shower, when I'm walking, in the car when I'm driving. Like, I don't have like specific podcast time where I'm like, okay, I am just going to spend the next hour ingesting podcasts. Yeah. I'm usually doing it when I'm doing something else. Like if I'm cooking dinner, if I'm doing like prep on Sundays, that's the time that I'll spend listening to podcasts. Yeah. It's like a lot of the podcasts that I listen to, they're not necessarily business podcasts. Shout out to Clay Shaver and the Remodeling Clay podcast. He just hit his 100th episode right before Christmas. And his podcast is just all about being the best version of you, you know? And I like that. Like, you know, it's motivating. You know, it's not one of those like, here's a list of 800 things you have to do to be the best version of you. It's just motivational and it's fun to listen to.
And, you know, and the thing is to be a great small business person, or really a business person in general, is to realize that there's not a separate entity of you at work and you at home. There is one you, there's one amount of time, and being the best you can help you be a better business person and a better home person. Improving it either helps you overall improve, improving at both helps you even better.
Right. One of the things with small business, we're just all making it up as we go. You try something, you see if it works. If it doesn't work, you try something else.
You be mindful.
Right.
That's why you have the metrics to measure. If you expect to get 50,000 new listeners because of a Facebook ad and you get 10, you have to look to say, well, gee, what could I do to do it differently?
But a lot of small businesses just trial and error. You know, you see what works, you see what doesn't work, and you keep going.
And you don't put up big budgets until you know what works. Start with a $5 Facebook buy. Don't assume you're going to get 250,000 new listeners by a Facebook ad and just dump the money into it right away.
Right. Exactly. You know, a lot of small business owners, they're looking for the next big thing, right? I'm always looking for the next small win. Okay, I tried this. Oh, hey, this gained traction. Awesome. Okay, let's do something else along those lines. Let's see if that continues. Or, you know, you do something and you don't get any traction. You go, all right, well, let's try this instead. But that's the thing. It's, you know, you're looking for small steps forward.
Yeah.
You know, just like Jeff said, you know, the average overnight success takes 8 years. Don't look for the big leaps. Look for the things that are going to give you forward momentum.
The same way you're unlikely to find a diet that will cure all of your weight problems, either you need to gain or lose weight, it's doubtful you're going to find one pill that will fix everything. There are probably more people on the internet who sell you this idea that you can become rich if you follow a certain technique. However, if it was really easy, you know, many of them would stop doing it because they don't have, you know, a passion for it. They're just selling you product and they're selling a lifestyle to you. They're not selling the actual success.
So you mean that belt that I saw in the Southwest magazine is not going to give me like rock hard abs overnight?
Probably not.
Oh, I guess I should cancel that order then, huh? Boo. This week's tip of the week, if you have not already done so, go write down your odometer reading. So that way you can get your mileage started for 2016. Also, for those of you that we talk about Mile IQ a lot on the podcast, they're not an affiliate. They're just a company that I really, really like. But because I'm an accountant, I can offer a 30% discount until April 15th on the software. So if you go to the show notes for episode 17, the discount code will be in the show notes to get 30% off. So it's less than $4 a month.
Yeah.
And it tracks all your mileage for you.
Wow.
You swipe one way for personal and one way for business, and poof, it tells you your total miles for the year. So it's pretty awesome. So for $48 a year, that's fantastic.
My suggestion would be once you swipe, just leave it there and don't look at your phone for text notifications afterwards.
There you go. I usually do mine in batches. Like I'll do it once a week because I pretty much know, because it'll tell you like where you started and where you stopped.
Oh, okay.
I'll just do mine like once a week. I'll go through the whole thing.
Yeah. And if once a week's too complicated, do it once a day when you get home, whatever.
Whatever
works for you.
But since, we started the show talking about ways to back up your WordPress, we also think it's a good time to think about backing up your computer. I have to tell you, so we mentioned this in another podcast episode. The first year I had my accounting firm, it was my very first tax season. And on April 14th, my computer died.
Oof.
April 14th. And I was able to get back up and running within an hour because of Carbonite. Carbonite is an online backup. You install it. You tell Carbonite what folders you want to back up. It does it automatically. It's super easy to restore. And now you can access your files from any internet device. So you can back things up from your computer and you can access them from anywhere.
Yeah.
It's automatic. And right now you can save 30% on a plan, which means that it's about $4 a month to back up your computer.
And to give full disclosure here, we tried something cheaper after Carbonite, and I hate it.
Yes, and we're going back to Carbonite.
And we're going to end up going back to Carbonite.
There's a lot of solutions out there. They say they're easier. They say they're cheaper, but I'll tell you, I've got clients that use Carbonite. It is rock solid. We've got them back up and running in no time. So easy to use, so easy to access. And we made the mistake. We tried somebody else and we're going back to Carbonite.
And it's one of those things too, sometimes, being thankful would have maybe prevented that, because if we had been thankful that they had saved our butt on April 14th.
Yes.
Maybe we would have tried to save, a couple dollars here and there.
Right. So if you go to smallbizlife.com, click on the show notes for episode 17, use our link for Carbonite, you'll save 30% off. And this is an affiliate, so you'll be supporting the show as well. Nice. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. And next week's episode,
dun, dun, dun.
I was going to do it this week, but I thought it was a little bit too depressing to do this week. Since I'm still like in the, yay, it's New Year. Next week, we're going to talk about taxes, because it's officially tax season. You're making the face.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about taxes. We're going to talk about some things that, some deductions that you might be missing, and then some opportunities to possibly cut your tax bill.
In the meantime, I'm going to have to install a swear jar on the table to make sure I don't swear during the episode next week.
So, hey guys, have a great week, and we will see you next week. Thank you for listening to Small Biz Life. If you enjoyed the show, please take a few minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes or Stitcher. Please visit smallbizlife.com to view today's show notes, take this week's poll, join the Facebook community, follow us on Twitter, or submit a question for the mailbag. Support the show by checking the resources page or by going to smallbizlife.com/Amazon whenever you shop.
This was Small Biz Life. This was Small Biz Life.